theme for our week, and you're still with us, so you're anxious to hear what Missy has to say about pleasure, as I am. Kind, wise, and uplifting, babe.
Well, first of all, I think the word pleasure isn't often associated with a workout, especially an intense workout. A highly intensive workout routine, you wouldn't generally not associate that word pleasure. But it happened, it came about last week, our last week, because that last day of last week was a very challenging practice. I would say more demanding perhaps even than challenging. Challenging is more like when you're trying to do something that's really like a little bit out of reach. But this particular one was demanding in the sense that whatever move was required of me, I was able to fulfill it. But it was challenge. It was really like tiring, and I was absolutely dripping. And as I said yesterday, I looked at the clock 3 times in the practice. I think today I may have looked once just to understand how much time we had left before we were going to do our core.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because, when is this going to end? And even though I was looking at the clock wondering when it was going to end, I noticed I love the moves. I really enjoy the moves. I get pleasure from those moves. So I don't get pleasure from being exhausted, from dripping, from sweating, from panting or whatever it is. But I get pleasure from the effort, and I get pleasure from the moves themselves. Like what comes to mind is the burpee, where we had to do the burpee, jump up on the box and down.
Squat, like Froggy,
yeah.
And then Froggy hop up off, right?
Now, that is not easily accessible to most people. Definitely most people of my years. But I like that move. I like the burpee because it's kind of a little bit of an explosive move. I like jumping. I like squatting. I like that because it makes me feel the life energy in my body. It makes me feel my strength and my personal power. It gives me joy that I can do that. Renegade row, another really good one where, we are in plank, right?
Oh, that was Manmaker.
Oh, Manmaker, yeah.
Yeah, that was a load, that Manmaker.
Do we do a burpee with the Manmaker?
Well, more or less. We get into plank and then do the push-up, the renegade row, then into grok squat, curl, and then stand up and press.
Right, so I do a jump back into a plank.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of features of that particular one. And it also can become really quite exhausting. But the moves themselves, I really enjoy, like lifting that weight up on either side, the, standing up from, like changing heights, levels. I like that. So what I've been noticing is the effort and the fatigue and the challenge are not always that enjoyable. But there are features of what it is that I'm doing that are enjoyable. And it's really valuable to remember the pleasure that you're getting from the move. And so that's why I chose the word pleasure today. And I feel like when you learn how to find pleasure when you're making an extreme effort and get that sense of satisfaction, that pleasure from really pushing yourself, it just feels great. It's very alive. So today's practice was full of life. It moved us a lot, and when we have that kind of momentum introduced into our thinking, because in order to do that, your mind has to be present to the push, and when you're actually using that physical body and pushing through all the limitations that are revealed to you as you come up, where you're tired, where there's just that little creaky point, where you've got to keep your arms up and it's hard. You know, there are many different aspects of staying attentive in order to fulfill the mandate of the move. And that pleasure that you learn to derive really prepares us for all of the different aspects of our life. Like, for example, yesterday, the camera just would not record for whatever reason. Then somehow it got turned into black and white, and whatever it was, the whole thing changed. And now I went online and I started working with it, and I got it to work. I got the pleasure of getting it to work. So very often things that create difficulty or challenge or problem, when you resolve them, you get a real sense of pleasure. I remember when I was a kid, I used to love in high school when I could work out a geometry, I think they called them axioms or whatever they were, but they were problems and you had to figure them out, and I was terrible at it. But when I got it, I was so excited to get it. So I want to say that no matter what challenge is there before us, there is always an element of pleasure that we could call forth, that we could evoke in our consciousness in order to accomplish whatever it is that we are undertaking, that has been given to us in that moment in time and space to achieve. And we can focus on it in such a way that we get the pleasure and the satisfaction of rising to the occasion, following through, moving past our comfort zone, moving past our previous level of accomplishment, and extending our capacity, our capabilities. And that is a great pleasure. May we all derive great pleasure from going the extra mile every time we're given that chance. And may we watch this world thrive and prosper as we start to claim that pleasure in all our doings that is available to us when we keep our consciousness open and fresh. Swaha.
Well, so there you have it, folks. So glad that you stick with us right till the end. It's always worthwhile, right? Now, just in closing, again, a reminder, the 25 minutes that we do, how much movement Missy and I did in that practice, and you by extension, if you did join us. Missy was talking, I was doing a little bit of math. We had 275 reps in the first 19 minutes. That was just on the lower body. And then we went through that into the core and the movement that was in there. So we had, well over 300 moves, probably closer to 350 in that, 350 reps in 25 minutes. Very efficient, effective way to practice. So glad you're with us.
Yeah, I love that. Where you use your time in the best possible way. It's kind of one of the places where I really don't get pleasure, is when I don't use my time well.
Yeah, for sure. Efficiency, that's going to be a nice theme. Maybe I'll think about that coming up. At any rate, folks, glad to have you on board. Time to disembark. So, Shala.
Alavai.
And we'll see you again tomorrow for
another one in the books.